automation platform, really this is the centerpiece of the platform where we're going to show you how to set up certain automated processes, including maintenance of knowledge bases. So we're going to have a look at knowledge management first, fairly brief, but very, very useful module showing you how you can tie in knowledge articles into tasks as well. How we can set up new knowledge bases, so we have unlimited knowledge bases for a given instance, so you can create knowledge bases for different groups of the organization. And it's our first peek into workflows, because we do actually have workflows enforcing a process on how knowledge articles are published and retired. Okay, so we'll take a look at those, have a look at the hierarchy that you can set up within a knowledge base and that structure, creating categories, subcategories, etc. Okay, so let's dive in and talk about knowledge management. So let me know in the chat if you have knowledge manager roles in terms of organizational roles in your companies. Okay, that will give you the ability to delegate the management of the knowledge base. We do have a knowledge admin role that you could give to a group of knowledge managers. Okay, so barring that, it would be down to the system administrator to create and publish knowledge base articles. But in real world examples, you do want to have subject matter experts. If you're talking about technical articles, you may also want some control over who sees certain sensitive documents. So all of these things can be set up in your knowledge base in terms of who can see what. Okay, so anyone with knowledge admin role can create and manage knowledge bases. They will be populated with knowledge articles, and they can exist within that knowledge base that is managed by those knowledge managers. Okay, and you can choose to have an approval workflow and publishing and retiring articles, or you can just go for an instant publish workflow. These are the two that are available out of the box. So just have a look at the hierarchy. Essentially, you have a knowledge base. Within that knowledge base, you have categories. And within those categories, you can have subcategories. So take some time to decide on the hierarchy that you want. A couple of examples there. We have an IT knowledge base and an HR knowledge base. So I think this became available from Geneva. Previous to that, you would be having to have all of your knowledge bases in one single knowledge base. But now we have the ability to create multiple knowledge bases. And workflows, whilst they are not unique to knowledge management, this is our first peek into how they can be used to essentially control the publishing and retirement of knowledge base articles. Okay, so I'll show you the ones that we've got defined in baseline, and it's up to you guys if you want to tweak those. Maybe you want some extra levels of approval. Maybe you don't want to have approval at all. Maybe you want to change how quickly articles are put into a retirement state, etc. Okay, so each knowledge base will have a workflow associated with it. Okay, so the workflow is set at knowledge base level. Every article within that knowledge base will therefore follow that workflow. So you can have a different workflow against a different knowledge base, but within one knowledge base at the moment, you would have to have all of them following that same workflow. And the result is something we've seen already in our training department. You have your knowledge base, which can be accessed usually via self-service application, and got a bit of a user-friendly graphical interface where you can search that knowledge base for articles. You can open up the articles, they can be flagged, and you can do commenting within there providing feedback on the article, etc. Okay, so if I just jump onto my web browser, back into Training Depth, this is the one that you guys have all joined. We have been using the knowledge base in here. Essentially, we were looking at a couple of articles, really. The main one being this file used in the class article, which is a whole bunch of attached files, okay? So this is just one use case in the real world of a knowledge base. We use it extensively to share files with people who come on our courses, okay? So really there are multiple use cases. You can store your HR documents. We also use them for known workarounds, for problems, and we'll have a look at how tasks can be used to create knowledge base articles. So if you have something useful that you found in a task that you want to save, for instance, an incident, a known workaround, you can actually create a knowledge article from the incident. Conversely, you can attach existing knowledge base articles to existing incidents and problems and any other task that you choose to configure to do that. And you might have seen this on the form where we're actually searching the knowledge base directly from an incident. And I'll remind you of where that is in a moment when I demonstrate. So I'm going to come back here in a moment. Let's just have a look on our training instances. If I just have a look in self-service and under the knowledge module, you might have already had a look at this. These are the example ones that we have. We have an IT knowledge base there, a knowledge base, and a social QA. Let's jump into IT and take a look. And we can search. We've got these categories here. We've got one for devices. Let's have a look. Apple devices, and I've got how to configure VPN for Apple devices. Open that up, and here we go. Got the article available. All the text and any attachments, I can mark that as helpful, etc. Notice I could create an incident directly from here. So in baseline, I have this UI action to create incidents from knowledge articles. Okay, so perhaps you read the article and decide, okay, I need to create an incident because basically, in this case, my Apple VPN is not working. At least I can say I've read the article, but there are some issues with that. My particular version of the OS is not working, or whatever. Okay, so just think about if you want that ability. Obviously, you can hide these UI actions if you wish. Because I am a knowledge admin, I also have the ability to edit this. And this is the form for creating that knowledge base article. So you have this HTML text field type here, where you can add images, videos. You can go into the HTML itself and write source code in there. And in a minute, I'll just demonstrate creating an article for this IT knowledge base. Okay, so let me just jump back to the deck, just go through the remaining slides. Okay, so let's do my demo then. So on this knowledge base, we have a file that we can use called prototype security requirements. So what my example is for Cloud Dimensions is, if you remember earlier, we did lose one of our prototypes. If you remember, remind you, we created an incident. Just go back to my open incident list. And here we have, there it is, my lost prototype incident. So created this earlier, and what I want to show you is on the incident form in baseline, we have related search results. this will search against whatever string is in the short description, and it searches the knowledge base. Okay, so the knowledge base that it's searching is the IT knowledge base in this case, and we've got 3 articles coming back that contain this search. Okay, I can then preview these. If I think that's useful, I can attach it to the incident. Okay, so you can see how knowledge is tied in with tasks, in this case with incident. Okay, what I can do when I close an incident is tick this little checkbox here, knowledge. That means on closure, I will take the comments and the short description and create a knowledge base article which will be in a draft state. Okay, it will not be published immediately. It will be subject to the workflow of publishing that I'm going to show you in a moment. But this would be used in the case where we have something useful we feel other people need to know about, maybe within our incident management team. Okay, so you can see that kind of two-way relationship between tasks here and what is available on knowledge base. Let me just go back to that knowledge base for IT that I've got baseline, and I'll just give you the scenario that I'm going to implement here. What I want is a new category for devices for my prototypes. Okay, so I've got Apple there. I want another subcategory here called prototypes, and I want to create an article from this Word document, prototype security requirements, which has been written on a Word document by my manager. Okay, so they want to make this available because of this loss of the lost prototype in my Cloud Dimension scenario. So I'm just downloading that. Guys, you can do the same. If you don't want to download this, you could just use any text. This is just to give you something to work with. I'm going to open this up. And what I'm going to do is actually copy the text of this into a new knowledge base article. Just let's see that launch. So somebody just written this typically in Word and emailed it to me, perhaps. In this case, I downloaded it, but what I want to do is just copy this. So I'm just selecting all of that. Remember, we could attach this as an attachment as well if we want the original document. But at the moment, I'm just going to paste it in. So before we go ahead and create this, let's have a look at some of the admin of knowledge bases. Okay, so if I type knowledge here as admin, I've got my articles here, unpublished, published. See my list of published articles. Okay, so I've got 31 in there, unpublished. At the moment, I've just got a couple. And what I want to show you is the actual knowledge bases themselves are defined in a table. So these are the 3 that we see: social QA, IT, and knowledge. I'm going to jump into IT. This is where I'm going to be putting my article. Okay, but this is the definition of the knowledge base itself, and we have this owner here, Bernard Laboy. Okay, I can add managers here, people who have knowledge admin role. They will be included in the list of approvers that is generated by the publish workflow. Okay, so these may be subject matter experts. All right, and I'm just drawing your attention to these 2 fields, publish workflow and retire workflow. Notice they are mandatory. That is at least in baseline. And we've got approval publish, workflow called knowledge approval publish in the publish workflow, and knowledge approval retire in the retire workflow. How can we see where these are defined? Let's take a look. I'll first look at the workflow editor. Just going to bookmark this, guys. Favorite that. I'm just giving you a quick look, a sneak peek of workflow editor. We're going to look at workflows this afternoon. Notice workflow editor, clicked on that module, it launched it in a new browser tab. This is a graphical user interface where we build workflows. Okay, So all the existing workflows are listed here on the right-hand side, and all of the activities that we can do are underneath this section here called Core. So I need to open one up. Let's have a look at, I just type Knowlege. Here are the examples that we've got. Let's have a look at this approval publish. That's the one we're using at the moment. And all workflows have a beginning and an end. Scroll over, you can see the end. We have these boxes known as activities joined by these transitions, and we can have different routes through the workflow. Notice I actually have a nested workflow here. So there's nothing to stop you putting one workflow inside another workflow. We've got an approval activity. This will be all the approvers who decide whether this should be published. Okay, we will then set values, setting the article to publish, and then running through to an end. If I go for instant publish, we just skip out the approval stage. Okay. So don't get hung up too much at this point on workflows themselves, just giving you a glimpse of these ones that are available. So you can tweak these if you want to. You want to adjust the way your knowledge approval works. You might want to add second approval. Nothing to stop you doing that. Let me just jump back here, because what I'm going to do is change this to instant publish. Okay, I'll put this instant retire as well. And it's just going to make this easier for me to demonstrate. So save that, make sure those new values are here. And that's all I wanted to do with the knowledge base itself. But when you do the lab, have a look at these two related lists, can read and can contribute. These contain records known as user criteria. Okay, so this can read includes all Acme North America employees. Okay, so this is just an example of what we call a user criteria. This is giving you full control of who can read or contribute to this knowledge base. Just going to show you the user criteria table where these are defined. So let's open up this all Acme Corporation employees. And notice user criteria allows you to decide multiple criteria that are going to give access to that readability on that knowledge base or contribute ability. In this case, we're saying as long as they're a member of one of these companies, they can get access. You could specify locations, departments, specific users, groups, and roles. You could even have a script if you check that advanced box. Notice there's another box here where you can say you need to match all of these criteria. Default with that unchecked means as long as you match one of these criteria, then you will have read access. Okay, so this is a pretty cool feature. We use it in the service catalog as well. Okay, so user criteria is not unique to the knowledge base. So let's go ahead and create an article. Just going to go back, type knowledge, create new, and a couple of mandatory fields. Which knowledge base do I want to put it in? Well, IT. Notice it's given me this number here. I'll just make a note of that so I can remember. Workflow field here is read only. This is going to track the stages of the workflow as we go through. And I can just show you, let's just put a short description, prototype, security requirements. And the category here, just going to show you you get something called Category Picker, and within this you can create new categories on the fly. So if I go into my devices, you can see I have two existing categories. Interestingly, Google existed. Why did you think I didn't see Google when we had a look earlier in the categories? Any suggestions why you don't see Google category, guys? Just when I had a look earlier. Just type in the chat, yeah. Yes, you are correct. If there's nothing in the category, it will not be shown. You need to have at least one article. I just click on this column, I get an add sign. I'm going to add my prototypes category as a subcategory of devices. Just click in the next column, make sure that's selected in blue. I'm not going to have another subcategory, but you get the idea. It's going to put this article into the prototypes category. Valid to has been set for 2020. Okay, so this is default. It's going to be in 3 years' time. And as we approach that date, we will hit the retirement workflow. Okay, so usually in your workflow, there'll be an approval before it is retired. But remember that I did an instant publish and an instant retirement. That will just put this in the retired state on this date, unless we come and change that later. All that remains to do really is paste in the text I copied earlier. Just go ahead and do that. And I'm going to save this. And notice it's still in draft state. So when we say instant publish, still requires me to click this UI action. Okay, I can retire it as well. And I'm only seeing these buttons because I am admin or Knowlege admin. Click publish. And it tells me there, Knowlege item has been published. Here it is, back on the list of published articles. Let's take a look in my knowledge base to confirm that is visible under the devices section. And there we go. That's just the text that I copied in earlier. If I go back to my incident, lost prototypes, if I look at my search results now, obviously the search engine has matched the article that I've just created. What I could do as the analyst now is have a read of this and look at those protocols that are now in place should we lose one of our prototypes. And because this was useful, I'm going to let others benefit from this by attaching that to the incident, and that will be, I just save this in my related records tab here. I've got a link to that knowledge base article. So hopefully that gives you a flavor, folks, of knowledge is not separate from tasks within the platform. Out of box, you have that link, certainly with incident. Let's just have a look at problem. I look at my problem records. So in this version, I can click to create a knowledge article. But what I don't have is that searching, but you could add that functionality as well. Okay, but just showing you baseline configurations. So, ladies and gentlemen, any questions regarding knowledge management? Okay. So, lab time for you guys. You are going to do lab 4.1. You're going to create that same